Well, let's talk about the fact that you seem to have adapted well to the departure of Carlos.
Very much so.
And it must be weird though, with half the rhythm section going, because the rhythm section is the propulsion of any band. How do you adapt?
Well, when you have somebody like David Pajo step in, you just don't, no pun intended, but there's not a beat missed.
Right.
I mean, kind of literally. That's not even a pun. It's just true. The guy managed to not only keep the integrity intact, but dare I say, he plays the lines a little bit better than. Well, I can't say better, with just a little more conviction than Carlos did. Carlos never really liked, kind of post antics. He never really liked being on stage.
Right.
Kind of all just shifted for him. So the first thing to suffer was his bass playing.
How did you come up with David? I mean, the last time I spoke with him was years ago when Zwan came out, and he was with Billy Corgan. How did you hook up with him?
Well, he was out with the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, doing what he's doing with us, just kind of playing. Well, he was playing keyboards a little more, playing a little bass, a little acoustic guitar, and our front of house guy, Harley Zinker, was doing sound for the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. And Harley is always the first person to hear of anything that happens with the band. And of course we're like, Carlos quit, what do we do? And he's like, you just call David Pajo. And that was really it. There was no time for any short list to be composed.
Well, how did you come across Brandon? I mean, Secret Machines was a great band. That first record is still one of my favorites.
Oh, we toured together on that record. We've known Brandon and Benjamin, for over 10 years. So we kind of came up together in New York. They were part of that, that first of many. Well, the first new wave of
independent bands.
The whole 2000 thing.
Right.
Yeah. So they were part of that whole thing.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. I mean, you're coming up on your 15th anniversary in a little while. You were part of that original, Strokes, White Stripes, yeah. Well, the White Stripes obviously not from New York, but I mean
right.
that whole
movement
in the early part of this century. Did you think it would evolve into what it's evolved into? Because prior to that, there really wasn't a lot happening in New York.
No, there's always. Well, New York is crazy because there's always it's like bang, and then just a little bit of silence, and then another 10 years later, it always seems like every decade, there's one decade that makes a lot of noise. They skip one, bang, It kind of scared me, in the sense, being a little bit older than everybody in the band, I didn't care about being a part of a scene. Like, to me, that spelled bad news, because once you're a part of a scene and that scene dissipates, so do you. You gotta branch out. Like, you gotta not be a part of a scene and still attract the attention of the people who are following what's going on. And someone like Carlos would be annoyed that we weren't bigger in the scene, that was kind of, bubbling under. And while I was still, kind of happy that, we were gaining attention, I thought it was important that we kind of make a left turn and get away from New York, just being exclusively this New York band. And that worked, and that happened. And I think that's the real kind of feat, a little minor victory there.
You were supposed to open for a big chunk of U2's tour last year, which I've seen the show a number of times, and I've talked to Gary Lightbody of Snow Patrol, and he's told stories about it. And then all of a sudden, Bono falls and hurts his back.
He did.
And are you guys going to get a chance to make that up?
Yeah.
You're on tour with them?
Well, we did the European leg.
Which was that?
That was last year.
You were on that?
Oh yeah, we did a month through Europe.
And how was
continentally. That? It was great, to be honest with you. I mean, I couldn't find a thing wrong with anything.
What about the fourth leg? You were supposed to be on the fourth leg too.
Well, we were supposed to do the U.S. and a little bit of Canada
Right.
last summer. That
Right.
got canceled. The European leg remained intact, and that was supposed to be it.
That was the one that started in Italy in last
Ended
August.
in Italy.
Ended in Italy?
It ended in Rome, I believe.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's the one that started in August, and yeah, okay.
Exactly. But we're going to make up for those summer dates in the summer.
So you're going back on the road with them?
We're gonna make up for the dates that we didn't play in the U.S. and Canada.
Let's talk about the state of independent music these days. If we saw the Arcade Fire win a Grammy Award for Album of the Year,
Pretty incredible.
which is, have you seen the tweets?
I haven't.
Hashtag, who is the Arcade Fire?
Oh yeah, I was thinking to myself that these people were clapping for the Arcade Fire, and probably half the room didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
I mean, in reality.
I'm just trying to figure out how that worked with the voting logistics. You have so many people, a part of the Academy, voting for an album. How did they not win Alternative Album of the Year and end up winning the whole thing with Album of the Year? I think the voting was just so split that they came up the middle.
Yeah.
And they were just the ones who survived the voting procedure.
The process. Yeah. I'm just glad that a real band, because I really don't pay much. I mean, awards to something that generates so much subjectivity, is kind of silly, but they're there and they've been there forever. So okay, fine. I'm just glad that a band won.
But a lot of people are going to take this as proof that, okay, there is a renaissance, much like we saw 98, 99, 2000, when you guys were first coming up. All of a sudden, this new generation of bands with this new indie attitude, whatever that is,
Right.
is now going to occupy the mainstream's consciousness for the next little while. Do you think so?
Just like you said, it comes in cycles. It'll happen for a few years, and then some pretty girl will come along and have this catchy pop tune, and people will forget that they like bands.
There was just something about Lady Gaga's performance on Sunday that made me think, you know what, that's done. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. It just felt done, and Bieber looked awkward, and that felt done.
Yeah.
So maybe there's hope. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, we look for hope every decade.
Given the state of independent music these days, who do you consider your contemporaries? And what bands are you watching to see if they make any great noise?
Well, the contemporary question, it's kind of hard to say because we float in our own little bubble, and we take bands on the road with us. We have School of Seven Bells out with us now, which is Benjamin, ex Secret Machines. It's Brandon's brother, who is in School of Seven Bells. So, I mean, we don't treat them like a support act. They're our friends and contemporaries, but on a grander level, the first person that comes to mind is Josh Homme.
Yeah.
We've been friends ever since we met, and we've great respect for each other's work.
I'm looking forward to that re-release of that first album. They're going to tour behind it.
I know.
And they're going to play it in its entirety. Really? Cool.
He's a madman. He's just that guy is the greatest work ethic in rock music.
I've been to his studio, and I've hung out in the studio, and what a great place to work. I mean, you would never, off the street, you would never guess that this was a super high-tech place.
Yeah, yeah.
And the little deck at the back where Josh drinks beer and smokes.
Yeah, totally.
It's a great place to go.
Yeah, and he has a great band. I mean, all those guys, Alan and Troy, and everybody's amazing. Joey.
What about up-and-coming bands other than School of Seven Bells?
Weekend.
They're good, aren't they?
You like them?
Yeah, I do.
Awesome.
I do.
Weekend. There's a band called The Soft Moon.
I don't know them.
Check them out.
The Soft Moon, where are they from?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's even smaller than, being on Slumberland Records.
All right. Huh.
I just met the Weekend guys in San Francisco.
Well, I heard them on satellite radio, and I thought, it's one of those things where you are listening, and then you immediately jerk and look at the display.
Yeah, who is that?
Who is
Must
that
have that.
right now.
And what are they doing?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened with me.
Fearless kind of stuff, I think.
Okay.
Has it's the Weekend kind of, again, like it's, we don't want to put any tags on anybody, but there is that abandon that Sonic Youth had.
Mm-hmm.
during like Bad Mood Rising, Evil. And I also hear a little bit of this kind of Flying Nun, New Zealand kind of overwrought in a good way vibe.
Yeah, okay, I hear that
A little
too.
bit,
I know. I know what you're saying. I certainly hear the Sonic Youth middle '80s stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
With maybe a little Daydream Nation in there, some
Yeah.
popular stuff. On Daydream
Just a little
Nation.
bit, yeah. I'm going to give Weekend their own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Let's okay.
I'm trying to give selling tags.
Bringing it back to Interpol, you were when you broke out. You were there just at the tail end of the glory years of the CD selling era.
Yeah.
Where people were actually selling millions of records. And I remember I told one person a story that when REM put out a record, it was 99 or something, they flew all these journalists and all these record people to Rio for a record release party. And that's the way it used to be.
That's the way it used to be.
But then in 2000, 2001, everything collapses. And now bands have had to find different revenue streams to replace selling plastic to people.
Yeah.
What have you guys been doing?
Playing live.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how we always made our money, really. I mean, we saw a little bit of royalties because Bright Lights and Antics went gold in 3 countries. Bright Lights is technically gold. I haven't gotten the record yet, Chris Lombardi. So, we have sold some records. So you see a little bit of royalties, but we've always made our money from playing live.
Nothing like licensing for video games or...
Oh, a little bit of that, too, of course. That helps. Definitely. But I think, like, the crux of that is just, we go and we tour for over a year.
How about something like social media? Are you deeply involved in things like Facebook and Twitter?
No. I'm not deeply involved. I mean, I see the benefit. I have to really just come clean and just go old school. Can't do it. You're not going to watch me change my underwear. Sorry. But we kind of we keep the stuff updated as a band. I kind of don't. As an individual, I steer clear.
I was talking to the guys from Gang of Four, I guess last week before, and we had a long conversation about alternate revenue streams. And one of the things that they were doing was taking artwork from all their old albums and selling that at gigs.
That's cool.
For whatever they
posters and stuff
posters
like that.
And prints and lithographs, that kind of stuff. And they were working on a book. Each of the guys had cameras, and what they were doing is they were going around taking pictures of fans, front of house, before shows, after shows, dressing rooms, and then they were going to publish that in a book or some sort of form that they could actually sell to people. And they were always looking for different ways to license stuff. And they had scored a bit of a deal with Microsoft with the Kinect.
Right.
So and they're unapologetic about it. You got to make your money somehow.
Of course. Or else, how are you going to write this music that everybody wants to steal? You know what I mean? It's just like, what are you supposed to do? Just work at McDonald's and then expect to have the wherewithal to, write a song that's as good as an early Gang of Four song? Like, come on.
One of the I was out on the West Coast over the weekend, and I was at a conference called Transmission. And Seymour Stein was there, and Sandy Pearlman, who did the second Clash album, was there, and a whole bunch of other people, entrepreneurs and managers and label people, and we're trying to figure out what to do with the music industry, what to come up next. And in the end, the only thing that anybody could really agree upon was, let's worry about the music of now and the future first, and then we'll sort out what we need to do with the music of the past. And I thought that was an interesting way of trying to at least organize the problem.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, I think, the past is the past, that the music's there. If people want it, it's there, they know how to find it. It's definitely, for, people coming up now, it's just like, you gotta have, there's gotta be some kind of form. It can't be so Wild West.
The thing that people were worried about the most was the time and money it takes to develop new music. You see all the entrepreneurs and the venture capitalists and the software guys, jumping all over the stuff that's already out there because it's there, it exists. You can monetize something that actually a product.
Right.
But the stuff that nobody knows about yet, that costs time, that costs money, and you don't see anybody doing that.
No. Well, it's up to the bands. They gotta You know, it's the same. It really hasn't changed for a new band. You have to get out and tour. And if you want to gain any kind of respect from any kind of decent label, it's not going to be gained by sending a demo in.
No, you pretty much have to be a turnkey operation, don't you?
Pretty much. I mean, we were one of the first bands that didn't actually have a proper release that Matador signed. We had the Chemical Underground EP. Wasn't available in the States. It was a limited edition of 1,200 copies, 1,500 copies, and it was gone as soon as it came out. Matador, you know, likes to work with bands that know what they're doing, you know, that don't need to be babysat, you know.
Well, having an A&R department is a very expensive thing, and band or labels want as close to a sure thing when they sign somebody as they can possibly get.
Exactly. So that's why I think it's really key for the bands to kind of just not depend on anybody but themselves, and to get out there and just play as much as they can. And it's hard. I mean, the playing field is dense. It's totally dense.
Well, there's more people making more music than ever before. More music is being consumed than ever before. The demand for music is greater than it's ever been before. But at no time in history have people been paying less for it.
Exactly.
So, and I worry about music being devalued, because if you can enjoy something as an MP3 file and then decide that I'm finished with it, it doesn't take up space on your shelf.
No.
It doesn't take up space on the floor of your car. It's just gone.
It's a trivial item.
Yeah.
It's a shame. And it's kind of disheartening, really. It's scary. I would hate if Interpol came out now.
Yeah, it'd be tough.
Yeah, I don't know if we'd be sitting here right now.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Well, what are you going to do over the next? How long have you been on the road now?
Well, this leg has been a couple weeks, but we've been touring since June.
How much longer do you have before you can take a break?
Till the end of the summer.
Okay, so another 5 months.
Yeah, 5-6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what?
I'm gonna take a break, man.
Yeah.
I gotta sit back.
What's a break? What would you do?
I go into the studio.
Well, you got your side project now too.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably be working on something else. You're referring to Magnetic Morning,
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah, I'll probably be working on something new.
With some friends?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for taking the time.
Oh, my
Appreciate
pleasure,
it.
man.
Thanks for the
Indeed.
coffee. It's actually not bad.
Yeah, it's not
It's a
bad.
cold day today, and nice warm up.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Cheers.
Explore Music wears English Laundry apparel.